عَلَى مَنَابِرٍ. The Prophet ﷺ, he said that the Dajjal will not come out until the people will cease to mention him. They'll forget about him. At a time when people forget about him, that's a time when the Dajjal will come out. Alright? And also the second thing that he mentioned is that the Dajjal will come out at a time where the leaders of communities will cease to mention him and warn against him on the minbar. Alright? Meaning that he will come at a time where people will totally forget about him. So hopefully, by us giving this class today, alright, will be a means of what? Of a reminder, inshallah ta'ala. Alright? The second reason is the Prophet ﷺ, he said there is no fitna greater upon the world since the creation of Adam, like there will be the fitna of the Dajjal. Alright? So therefore, again, if you're going to go over the first 3 points, there are 6 bullet points up here. What does Dajjal mean? If you're taking notes, what does Dajjal mean? The description of the Dajjal, and is the Dajjal alive as of right now? So these are the only 3 we're going to go over today. Next week, we're going to go over the arrival of the Dajjal and the trials and tribulations the Dajjal will bring. Alright? That's another class. The response to those who deny the Dajjal, and the bullet point we didn't mention here is how do we protect ourselves from the Dajjal. So again, there's 3 parts to this series. Alright, about the Dajjal. The only 3 we're going over today, if you're taking notes, is what does the Dajjal mean? The description of the Dajjal, and is the Dajjal currently present? Alright? So, what does the Dajjal mean? Dajjal means, it comes from the word Dajjal. Dajjal in Arabic, alright, Dajjal. Dajjal in Arabic means to mix something. Alright? It means to mix. So you mix two things together. Alright? And it also means to deceive. This is why the Dajjal, this is why his name, because he mixed truth with falsehood. Hence how he got the name Dajjal. Again, so Dajjal, it means what? To mix. Alright? To mix something. And the reason why the Dajjal is called the Dajjal, it comes from the name Dajjal, is because he's mixing what? Truth with what? Falsehood. With falsehood. Alright? And we actually go into the miracles, not miracles, I don't want to say miracles, but he goes into the different deceptions that he will actually do to convince the people. And actually what time he's going to come out and so on and so forth. We're going to go over that too. But generally speaking, the word Dajjal, it means to deceive, and it means to what? To mix things. And obviously, the Dajjal, he mixes truth with falsehood. There's going to be 10 different descriptions we're going to go over. I'm only going to mention 10. Okay? As far as his sifat. Now, there are more than this, but we're only going to mention 10. All right, I'm only going to mention 10 different ones. Here, it's mentioned that the Dajjal, number 1, some of the scholars of Islam, they mentioned that he's actually a man that will be born from the children of Adam. Alright? Meaning he will have parents that will actually give birth to him. Alright?
So you can repeat what you said?
That the Dajjal is a man from the children of Adam, like one of us. Alright? Not an actual different creation and so on and so forth. Alright? But he's a man. Alright? Number 2. He's very, very short. Yes. Alright, so when I say Rajul, that he's a man from the children of Adam, meaning what? He will have parents. Alright. And another description that what? He's very what?
Short.
He's very short. Another description of the Dajjal is that even though he has parents, he will not have children. He will not be able to have children. On your test, I'm going to be asking you, name at least 7 descriptions of the Dajjal. I'm letting you know one of the questions now. Yay, okay. Alright. Also, some of the scholars of Islam, they mentioned that the Dajjal, he's young. Alright, Shaq. Or he will resemble a young man. Alright, so he's a man. He's very short. What else? He will not have what? Any children? And he's young. Now these descriptions are very, very important.
Well,
Huh?
I was about to say he's not young, right?
The Dajjal?
I'm saying he'll look young, but he's not young himself. Right?
It's a different
Wasn't he alive during the prophet's time?
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Let me quarterback out.
So he's not really young.
You want to come up here?
No. I'm just making sure I write the right thing.
But he resembles what?
He resembles, some of the scholars say he's young, some say he will resemble a young man. These descriptions are very, very important, as you will find out why in a few minutes. Alright? What's this, number 5? Alright? I know what some of the scholars mention that he has like a reddish skin. Alright, that he have like reddish skin. Alright, some of the scholars actually interpret that to say that maybe he was very pale. Alright, and you know, when for example, people who are Caucasian, when they get mad or something like that, they have like what?
Red.
Like it's like a reddish color. Okay, so in that regard, not that he's just red. Okay, as far as like he has like a reddish skin tone, and Allah knows best. All right. Also, we said we're going to mention 10, number 6. The 6th description that we're going to mention is that he has very curly hair. He has curly hair. Ja'd al-Ras. He has curly hair. Again, there's major reasons why we're mentioning the reason of the Dajjal, the descriptions of the Dajjal. And what's the famous one that everyone knows about?
One eye.
Huh? He has what?
One floating eye.
What about his eye?
Floating.
Floating like a grape.
All right. That he has a defective eye. Some scholars mention it's the right one. Some mention it's the left one. All right. But one of his eyes, either way, one of his eyes is very, very defective. All right. All right. It's very, very defective. Now these descriptions are very, very important. This man is not even. His physical description is very what? What you can tell him about his physical description so far? Huh?
Different.
It's
Is
different,
normal?
defective, and so on and so forth. All right. But yet this man's going to be able to deceive a lot of people. It's not even a complete human being. And the reason why these descriptions are very, very important because all the miracles, quote unquote, that he's able to do, a lot of people are going to be so confused to say, "What this man is Allah." And this is why the Prophet told the people, know his descriptions. That he's one-eyed and your Lord is not one-eyed. That he's this and so on and so forth. That he was born. Allah, lem yulid wa lem yulad. Right? Yes.
Now, since he can change his shape, form, and everything, even though we have the descriptions, now how would you say...
Well, you say he can change his shape?
Right, if it's coming in front of a human being, he can take any form, like he wouldn't come like a one-eyed person.
Well, he's going to come one-eyed. He's not going to change his shape. He's not going to change his form. He's not going to change his form, as far as we know. Now, we're going to get into a different hadith, the hadith known as the hadith of Jassas. All right? We're going to go into that, inshallah, the hadith that you're talking about. And I think that's what we're talking about as well. All right? But this is number 7, that he has what? He's one-eyed, whether it's the right or the left. But either way, some of the scholars mention that both of them are actually kind of messed up. All right? Both of them kind of actually, one is like a floating grape, and the other one is a little bit defective as well. All right? But either way, that what? One of his eyes is what?
Defective.
Defective.
Or extremely defective.
Extremely defective. Yes. Now also, where we're at? It's number 8. Now we're on number 8.
Yeah.
Number 8 is that he will have the word kafara or kafa written on his forehead. Now this is pretty interesting. We're going to digress just a little bit. All right. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of people say, well, what's the point in having kafara on his forehead? Okay. Well, first and foremost, every believer will be able to read it, even those who are illiterate. They will be able to read it. Allah will enable them to actually be able to read this. Now, the funny thing about this, I remember when I was overseas. I was overseas in different countries, in Kuwait and so on and so forth. I used to live in Kuwait. I used to go to the army base sometimes. because the job he used to work at, he used to be on the army base. In other different, you will find that some of the soldiers,
They got it tattooed on.
they would tattoo stuff on their arms and on their weapons. They would write kafara. All right, they would actually write that. It's not an exaggeration. And they would say, because even though we don't go out and profess that, they would say, oh, the Muslims, they call us kafirs, they call us this, that, and the third. So what? We're proud to do this. And they would get this stuff tattooed on their neck. All right, I never seen nobody get tattooed. I'm not gonna lie. I've never seen nobody. But I've seen people write on their neck, write on their weapons, and so on and so forth. So it's pretty interesting why the Dajjal will have this written on his forehead, as if it's a badge of honor. All right. So this is not something that's far fetched. People are doing it now. All right, is everybody with me? All right. So therefore, he will have what written on his forehead? Kafar. All right, or kafir. All right, and when I started to see that, I said, SubhanAllah. All right. That when I first took my shahada, I was like, that's pretty weird. But now when I started to see actually people do that, now I said, SubhanAllah. All right.
One guy with a tattoo big across his back.
All right. Now, number 9 and number 10 is basically he will have a very protruding forehead. All right, a protruding forehead, and number 10 is he will have a wide neck, a very wide neck. In a nutshell, a very ugly individual. Okay.
He's made up. Man.
Huh?
He's made up.
May Allah protect us from him. I mean, you got to think that, subhanAllah, that the ummah have. I'm going to leave this up here so you can take a picture later.
Okay.
All right. That every prophet has warned against his enemy. All right. But these are the descriptions. Here are 10 major descriptions of the Dajjal. There's more. I'm going to mention some of the scholars of Islam mention that he's also pigeon-toed. Okay. And so on and so forth. He's a very defective individual. He'll be able to do a lot of different things. Number 3, we're going to spend the most time on, and I'm going to mention several different stories that I want you to focus on. It's very, very important. Okay? Number 3, what's the third bullet point? No. Come on, brother. Is the what?
Dajjal alive.
Is the Dajjal alive?
Was he present? Was he present during the time of the prophet?
All right. This is, now, what I'm going to teach you now, a lot of people and a lot of students don't really approve of it. Okay? And I'll tell you why. Basically, something just leave it as it is, but for academic study, we're going to go into detail. All right? Anybody knows me, I like going to academics and stuff like that. All right? So anyway, and this from our religion. All right, the scholars actually differ as to is the Dajjal alive or was he alive? Is the Dajjal alive? Is the Dajjal alive, etc. And the rest of the question was he present during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? All right? If you're taking notes, I want you, don't deviate from what I'm writing. Because if you deviate and say, Abdul Wahhab taught me this, I'm going to say you're lying. All right? So, write exactly what I'm writing. All right, write exactly what I'm writing. I want you to draw like a chart here. Write yes on this side. And then you're going to write no on this side. Obviously, yes being yes that what? Some of the scholars says that the Dajjal is alive. And also yes that he was alive during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some of them say no. Some scholars of Ahl Sunnah, from them Shaykh Uthaymeen, we know the status of Shaykh Uthaymeen rahimahullah, says that no, he was not alive, but he will come. When I say no, meaning that they still believe in the Dajjal, but that he will come what? Towards the end of what? Of time. Alright? So neither group denies the Dajjal. I want to make that clear. Some of them say that yes, he was alive during the time of the Prophet and so on and so forth. So what we're going to do here, number 1, you're going to write, and it's underneath group yes, right? You're going to write Safi, ibn Sayyad. Matter of fact, I want everybody to repeat after me. Safi ibn Sayyad. All right. Safi ibn Sayyad was who was this person? All right. Now this falls underneath group yes, and number one, you're also going to put a star next to it, next to Safi ibn Sayyad. All right, and I'll tell you why you're going to put that star next to it in a few minutes. Okay. I'm going to mention different proofs here, but Safi ibn Sayyad kana Yahudi, kana shab Yahudi. He was a very, very young boy who was Jew, who was raised in a Jewish family in Medina. Okay? And he used to practice sihr. He used to practice, what is sihr? Magic. Like magic, black magic, and so on and so forth. He used to practice it and deal with jinns a lot. Okay? Now, what happened on one occasion, it was being spread amongst the companions that, this kid is Dajjal. All right? And then you can find this hadith in Sahih Muslim. Sahih Muslim actually has a whole chapter about Safi ibn Sayyad. Okay? Now again, this is yes, they're saying that yes, the Dajjal was alive, and yes, he was alive in the time of the Prophet. So I said to them, they were referring to who? Safi ibn Sayyad. Okay? Now, what happens, he was, like I said, he was a young boy, he used to practice magic, he used to also deal with the jinns. On one occasion, it was rumored amongst in Medina that this young boy is the Dajjal. So the Prophet ﷺ and Umar Khattab, basically the Prophet said, I'm going to find out. I'm going to find out. So what happened here, the Prophet ﷺ, he went to the boy on one occasion. Alright? He went to the boy on one occasion while he was playing with other children. While Safi was playing with other children. And the Prophet ﷺ, him and Umar Khattab, he approached the boy. And he went to him, and the boy turned around, and he was stuttered that it was the Prophet ﷺ. All right, he was shocked that it was the Prophet ﷺ. So the Prophet ﷺ immediately asked him, Atashhad, anani Rasulullah, do you testify that I am the messenger of Allah? Now this boy, some of the scholars of Islam, they say this boy is probably around the age of 12 or 13. Remember the descriptions we went over. We said the Dajjal is what? Number 4 was what? He's what? He's a young boy. Or he's young. Alright? So what happened here, the Prophet ﷺ, he went to who? Who we're talking about? Safi ibn Sayyad. And he said, Atashhad, anani Rasulullah. Do you testify that I'm the messenger of Allah? Now look at the arrogance of this boy. He said, Ana ashhad annaka Rasul ummiyin. I testify that you are the messenger of the unlettered people who don't know how to read. Then the boy was even more arrogant. But rather, do you say that I am the messenger of Allah? Look what he said to the Prophet ﷺ. So the Prophet ﷺ, he refused. فَقَالْ أَمَنْتُ بِاللَّهِ وَرُسُلِهِ. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, I believe in Allah and all of his messages. Right? So it doesn't stop there. What happens here is that the Prophet ﷺ was investigating, interrogating the boy. He said, Mala tara. What do you see? People claim that you have these visions and everything. What do you see? The boy, he said, Safi ibn Sayyad, he said, I see al-arsh, I see a throne on water. What is he referring to? When Allah first created everything, what was the first thing he created? Oh, you have the hadith of the pin. But it's even mentioned before that, when the people came and asked the Prophet ﷺ about how did this all come about. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, Kana Allah, there was Allah and there was nothing before him. Wa kana arshuhu al-ma, and Allah's throne was on water. So the boy was trying to say something like this. He says, I see a throne on water. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, you see the throne of Shaitan on water in the ocean. Alright? So what happened here? The boy, he said, I also see 2 men coming to me. One tells me the truth, the other one is lying. Right? The Prophet ﷺ, he said, this boy is confused. Alright, this boy is confused. You don't know what he's talking about. Alright? So now what happens here, the Prophet ﷺ, he told the boy, Inni khaba'tu lak khabi'a. I'm hiding something from you. He's interrogating the boy. Why is he interrogating? Because he's trying to show that what? Find out if this boy is what? Everybody with me?
Yeah.
Find out if he's the Dajjal or not. Alright? So he says, I'm hiding something from you. He told Umar bin Khattab, a particular, because Umar's with him, he told him a verse in the Quran. I want everyone to go to it. Go to Surah Al-Dukhan, verse number 10. Dukhan, verse number 10.
What's the
Dukhan.
what's the number?
You gotta find that out, brother. You got smart
My
phone,
phone
man.
is on
Say,
record,
brother.
man.
You got neighbors. You got my man. What you right next to you? You know what I'm saying? All right. I can't give you everything.
That's Surah 44.
Surah 44, verse number 10. The Prophet said, he told Umar bin Khattab, or it's mentioned, some of the scholars have mentioned, that he told the companions this particular verse. What is the verse?
Then watch for the day when the sky will bring a visible smoke.
Alright. فَارْتَقَدْ يَوْمْ فَارْتَقَدْ يَوْمْ تَأْتِي السَّمَاءُ بِالدُّخَانِ الْمُبِينِ. Alright? And as she just read it, so the Prophet, he recited this verse. So he asked the boy, what am I hiding from you? The boy, he said, Dukh. Remember, the Prophet was talking about Dukhan. So the boy, he said, Dukh, Dukh. Alright, but he didn't say the whole thing. All the boy was saying is what? Dukh. But obviously the Prophet was talking about what? Dukhan. Is that right with me so far?
Yeah.
So when the boy said Dukh, Dukh, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, Ikhsa, فَلَن تَعْدُ قَدَرَكَ. Ikhsa is basically like shut up. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he told him, Ikhsa, shut up, فَلَن تَعْدُ قَدَرَكَ. You will never pass your level. You out of your lane. Basically, for lack of better words. Stay in your lane. You out of, how do we say? You out of your what?
You out of your league.
You out of your league. There we go.
Yeah.
All right, that's the best way of saying it. The Prophet told the boy, shut up, you out of your league. You don't know what you're talking about. Okay? So now what happens here, Umar bin Khattab, he gets extremely angry. And he says, Da'ni ya Rasulullah, leave me alone, Messenger of Allah, let me kill him. Umar bin Khattab, he was upset. Alright? So the Prophet ﷺ, he told, and the reason why we narrate the story to the scholars, they use this to say what? Alright? That yes, we're underneath group yes, right? Mm-hmm. And yes stands for what?
He's alive.
That they use he's alive, he was alive during the time of the Prophet. Alright? So what happens here is that Umar Khattab, he says, leave me alone so I can kill him. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, yeah, Umar, if he is the Dajjal, then you ain't gonna be able to kill him. And if he is not, there's no benefit in killing the boy. Leave him alone. He's confused. He'll be alright. Alright? So that is one proof that they use to say that Safi, that the Dajjal was present. Not necessarily it was Safi. I'm not saying that the Dajjal was Safi, but they use that to say that the Dajjal was what? Present during that time. There is another proof that they use, and it's also regarding Safi. But one day, Safi, he was laying down. He was laying down by his house, and he was basically reciting some type of stuff. Some of the scholars say that the jinns were revealing certain things to him. So the Prophet said that he hid next to basically like a date palm tree, all right, to try to find out what actually was going on. The mother of Safi, all right, she said, "Ya Saf," like his nickname. "Ya Saf, Hadha Muhammad." Muhammad is watching. So he stopped. So the Prophet said that he became upset. Well, I don't know if he became upset, but the Prophet said to him, he said, "No tarakathu," all right, baby. Had she left him alone, I would have truly found out everything at that point. The reason why we're saying this is that the scholars of Islam, they say that, and I'm going to mention, eventually they found out it was not Safi. But to go to show you that some of the companions, even Umar bin Khattab, he used to swear by Allah. He said, in front of the Prophet ﷺ, Wallahi, Safi is the Dajjal. And the Prophet ﷺ wouldn't say anything. Let me finish. Let me go back. All right? But the whole point is, yes, I'm not saying it was Safi. I'm going to prove to you that it wasn't Safi. Eventually they found out. But however, at the end of the day, the scholars of Islam, they use this as a proof to say that what? That yes, the Dajjal was alive, and that he was what? During the time of the process. Everybody's with me so far?
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm trying to figure out, like, how does that mean that he was alive?
I got you. Just stay with me. You with me so far, though, right? All right, cool. Another narration. So those are the two narrations that they use regarding Safi. Now, what crosses him out?
He doesn't have kafara on his forehead?
No? All right. But remember those descriptions we went over? What eventually crosses Safi out? Well, we have a hadith, and this is a pretty funny hadith. I want everybody, or at least funny to me. All right? I'm going to laugh. All right? So what happens here... I'm laughing now, all right? So anyway, so what happens here is this is a hadith also in Sahih Muslim. On the authority of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. On the authority of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, he says that we were getting ready for Hajj one day. All right, me and a group of the companions. And Safi bin Ziyad was with us. But it became extremely hot and we wanted to just take a rest. And once we decided to rest in a particular area, everybody broke away from Safi. Nobody wanted to sit next to him. And I was the only person that was left sitting next to Safi. And it's Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. So Abu Sa'id, he says that basically I put my bags down in a particular area, and then Safi came over to put his stuff down next to me. So I told him, you know, why don't you, it's pretty hot, why don't you go seek some shade over there, that tree over there. Basically like what?
Yeah.
What? Basically what?
Get away.
Get away from me. All right? But in a nice way. So what happens here is that Abu Sa'id, he says some food was given to me. And when Safi, he saw the food, he came to what? To eat with me. And he also brought with him some milk. And he said, why don't you drink this? So Abu Sa'id, he said, I was thirsty. But I told him, nah, man, the milk is hot, and I don't like hot milk on a hot day. All right? Meaning what? I don't even trust you like that, fam. Leave me alone. All right? So what happens here?
What's in that milk?
All right? Something is that. So he says the milk is hot, and it's a hot day, and the two don't mix to each other. So Safi says, I see what's going on. He says, I wish I can take this rope and hang myself from this tree here, meaning kill myself. Because what did people say about me? You know what the people say about me. And what did the people say? They say that he's the what? The Dajjal. But he says, Abu Sa'id, you are the most well-known companion of hadith. Didn't the Prophet, go back to the characteristics. He says, didn't the Prophet ﷺ say that the Dajjal would not be able to have children? Remember when we say he didn't have children, right? And I have what? I have children. Didn't the Prophet ﷺ say that the Dajjal could not enter what two cities? Medina and Mecca. And I live in Medina, and we're going to Mecca for Hajj. Alright? He's making some good arguments here. Okay? Another thing that he says, didn't the Prophet ﷺ say that the Dajjal is a disbeliever and a Muslim? I'm a Muslim. So eventually Safi, after he grew up, he ended up taking his Shahada. Okay? Is everybody with me so far? He says
he became Muslim.
He became Muslim. Wait a minute. Alright? Let me go back. Like father, like son. You know what I'm saying? Alright. So what happens here, he says, didn't the Prophet say that the Dajjal was a disbeliever and I'm a what? I'm a Muslim. So, yes.
So if he was
Just wait for it.
Just wait for it. Wait for it. Alright. So what happens here is, subhanAllah, you ain't forget that. Alright, so yeah. So what happens is that Abu Sa'id, he says, I start to feel bad. Because he was making some what?
Good argument.
Some strong arguments. Had to get to a little. I was about to make an excuse for him. But then he said something that changed the ballgame. So Safi said, walakin. But, you know, the title of the Dajjal sounds pretty nice. وَلَوْ عُرِضَ عَلَيَّ. He said, وَلَوْ عُرِضَ عَلَيَّ مَا كَرَهْتُ. But if it was given to me, I wouldn't deny it though. This is a sick individual. Alright? So, you know, like some people like to play mental games with you. At the very least, Safi was one of these people. But what happens here is that on one occasion, the people just stopped seeing Safi. It was over. So having said that, this is why some of the companions, they would still say, you know, he was, maybe Safi was the Dajjal, Allahu A'lam. And then when he left Medina, he was never able to come back. Everybody with me so far?
Right.
So this is why some of them, they say that, yes, the Dajjal, they use it as a proof to say that the Dajjal was what? Alive during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Alright, is everybody with me so far? Now, the second hadith that everybody was not really patient to wait for. Alright? You have the hadith, what is known as the hadith of Jassasa. I'm not going to quote the hadith, it's a very, very long hadith. It is narrated by Fatima bint Qais. So these are the two main proofs that they use that the Dajjal is what? Alive as of right now. Alright? The hadith of Jassasa, if you don't know, I'm going to quote it in detail. I'm going to quote everything. It's a very long hadith, even in English. The translation is like 5 pages. Alright? So for the second time, I'm not going to quote the whole thing, but everybody, once I start it, you'll pretty much know what I'm talking about. What happens is, one day the Prophet ﷺ, he called the people, Salat al-Jama'ah, he called them to the masjid. When they came to the masjid, he said, you know, I'm basically gathering you here because I want to tell you something that Tamim Daddy told me. Tamim Daddy was a Christian who became Muslim. Alright? And he's informing him about something that happened to him when he was traveling in the sea. Everybody kind of knows hadith? He was traveling in the sea. Alright, and I'll just mention it in detail, not in detail, but you know, just generally speaking, I'll mention it. So, basically what happens here is that he says the sea was throwing us around for a while. And we came across an island, and when we got out of the boat, and we came across the island, we saw this beast that was very, very hairy. And you couldn't tell his front from his back. Alright? And this beast basically informed, we said, Men ant, who are you? He says, Ana Jassasa. I am Jassasa. This hadith is in Sahih Muslims. If you want to read it, you can go back to it. Hadith is Sahih Muslim. He says, I'm Jassasa. He says, and what is Jassasa? He said, don't worry about that. There's a man who wants to meet you in the temple. Everybody heard this hadith before?
Yeah.
No? Alright. So basically, anyway, they take, Jassasa takes these group of men, takes them to this big man that's chained up in the temple. Alright, so a very large man that's chained up in the temple. Okay? So what happens here is, and hadith is sahih, the hadith is authentic. Alright? So what happens here is that basically this person is inquiring about different signs. Has this happened yet? Has this happened yet? Has this happened yet? They say yes, or they say no, and so on and so forth. Okay? So what happens here, eventually, this person says, Ana Dajjal. I am the Dajjal. And I will be released soon. And when I am released, I will do it such and such, and in 40 days. But I will not be able to go to Mecca and Medina. Alright? And so on and so forth. And you have the rest of the hadith, you can go back and look it up. So the Prophet ﷺ, he's on the minbar, and he hits basically the minbar on the ground, and he says, this is Tayyiba, this is Tayyiba, this is Tayyiba. This is the place that the Dajjal cannot come to, meaning this is Medina. Is that right with me so far? So what happens here, you have these two hadith, this, and the Prophet ﷺ, he says, did not what I tell you about the Dajjal, doesn't it fit with what Tamim Daddy is saying? Then the people, they say, yes, that is true. Having said that, these are the two main hadith that the scholars use to say that what the Dajjal is what? Alive? Today. Alright? And that possibly he was during the time of the Prophet. Well, if he's alive today, that he even was during time of the Prophet. Alright. Now let's go to the no real quick. Am I losing anybody? Be honest. Is everybody with me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So are you like, has anybody encountered that island today or anything?
As far as I know, people have said that, some people, alright. No one knows. Alright, no one knows. Let's just leave it like that. No one knows. When he comes out, he'll come out. Alright? Whether you agree with the first group or the second group, when he comes, he's going to come. But some people say, oh, it's the Bermuda, how you pronounce it? Bermuda Triangle.
Triangle, yeah.
Alright, no one knows if that's the case, so on and so forth. Alright, just leave it alone. Don't go searching for it. and all this other stuff. All right, because if you found it, trust me,
You're going to be in trouble.
that's gonna be the last thing you see. All right. So anyway, so when you say no, all right. Some of the scholars of Islam, we're talking about scholars of Ahl Sunnah. From Shaykh al-Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he says that no, the Dajjal was not alive. All right, he's not currently here, but he will come out at his time. So the scholars, they asked him, well, what do you say about these two hadith? Is everybody with me so far?
Mm-hmm.
What do you say about this? He says, well, as for Safi, it's clear that what he wasn't the Dajjal. Because these two hadith, they kind of contradict each other. And it goes against that which we know about the Dajjal. For example, in the hadith of Jassasa, it says that what the Dajjal is a very large man. But it goes against what we know about. We said that what he's short. And he's this, that, and the third. And also you have another hadith where the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned, after every 100 years, whoever was alive today, all right, will not be present in 100 years from now. So that would also include, if the Dajjal was alive at that particular point, then he would no longer be what? Present. Is everybody with me so far?
Right.
So far, he's making some strong arguments. Okay? Another thing he says, regarding the hadith, and even though Shaykh al-Taymiyyah himself and other scholars, they would not say this hadith is da'if. They wouldn't say it's weak. But they would just say, fi nafsi shay. It doesn't sit right with me. Because out of all the companions, and this is notice, they for an example, they would do this. Say this, for an example, let's say this was the Prophet ﷺ teaching. You have a lot of the companions that's sitting here. All right? And Fatima bin Qais, she's way back here on the front row of the women. So he says that if this is the case, there's no other companion from the men. No other companion from the women. Nobody else heard this or narrated this except for this one person who's in the back. So, I don't know about that one. All right, so this is some of the points that he brings up. But the main thing is that he says, as a reality, what we know about the descriptions of the Dajjal, that he's one-eyed, he's this, that, and the third, so on and so forth, it goes against the descriptions that's mentioned in this hadith. Is everybody with me so far? What do we say about it? And I just mentioned this one point. The scholars, they refer and they respond to Shaykh al-Taymiyyah, and they say, they say, we can't respond to all of your points. But some of them are valid points. But what we can ask for you saying that, that there will be nobody left of 100 years after a particular date. Well, go to, I don't want, there's different verses in my head, I don't want to confuse you. Who can remind me when Shaitan disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what did he ask for? Huh? He asked for respite, he asked for time. And Allah did what? He asked, how long did he ask for respite for? All right, until the day of judgment. Okay? So what happens here, Allah says what? This is a very, very important thing. What did Allah say to Shaitan? Huh?
Respite was given.
But respite is given. But he said something. That you are from those what?
Who are disobedient, but he only allowed them.
No, not only disobedient, but you are from those who are granted what? Respite.
Yeah.
We read that, we forget something. So the scholars, they use this, they respond to Shaykh al-Taymiyyah. So wait a minute. Allah didn't say, إِنَّكَ الْمُنْذِرِ. He said, إِنَّكَ مِنَ الْمُنْذَرِينَ. You are from those who are granted respite. Which means that there perhaps are more creations other than what Shaitan, who was granted time to live for a long lifespan. Does everybody see what I'm saying? Because he didn't say, you are the one who's granted respite. He said, you are from what? Those. So perhaps the Dajjal is from these people, from these creations. Is that right with me so far? That perhaps that, yes, he lived during a time, because if Noah was warned against him, that he possibly will come out, so on and so forth, then maybe he was what? Granted a long life to live. Is everybody with me so far? You sure? I didn't lose anybody. Alright? So because of that, and that's very important, we need to focus on Quran and what's actually being said. So that you are from those who are granted respite. So this is one way how they actually respond to it. Well, how do we make harmony between everything? Alright? Whether you agree with this or whether you agree with that, I really don't care. Prepare for the Dajjal. Alright? Because he's coming. Whether he's alive now, that doesn't benefit you. Whether he's coming out later, doesn't benefit you. What benefits you is the what? To prepare your soul for that what? If you are from those that what? That meet him. And if you are not from those that meet him, then prepare others so they can prepare their generation and so on and so forth. It's the only thing that matters. Don't wreck your brain whether it's, yes, he's present right now. If you figure out that he is present right now, what do you get out of it? Just like give you a gin card, you don't get nothing out of it. If he's not present right now, what do you get out of it? Nothing. Alright? But know that what it is a very serious topic. Obviously, that's why we're actually studying it. And that's all we're going to present for now for the sake of time. Is there any questions? Excuse me. Yes. Is there any questions in regards to that? Now you see why I kept saying wait.
Right.
All right. So again, there's a lot of scholars who say yes. There's some scholars who say no. There's other than Sheikh al-Amin, he's not the only one. Yes.
Do you recall what verse that is that you said where you said you and from the one to the granted respect?
In the Kingdom of Mundarin. So to the Hijab, I believe. Just type it up in Google real quick. Okay. I want to make a mistake. You are from those who are granted respect. And then that they use that as a proof to say what? That there's what? Not only Shaitan, but perhaps there's other creation that was granted a long life. And we'll get into what are the possibilities and so on and so forth. Like for example, the angels, they live for a long time.
Yeah. And the jinn.
Alright? And jinns have long lifespans and so on and so forth. Allah knows best how long that will actually be, right? And so on and so forth. Huh?
I said, and the creation, it was before the jinns that was on earth, before...
Well, those were jinn, but they were classified as different things. And Hinnan and Bin and so on and so forth, but they still were jinn.
Right.
Alright? But alayhi, this is what we want to present today. So real quick, what does Dajjal mean?
The Antichrist.
To what?
Mix.
Alright, something mixed, alright? Dajjal, but he's mixing what? Truth and falsehood. Alright, so somebody just name, without looking at the paper, just somebody from the back. I want 3, and then somebody over here 3. What is I'm going to call on you.
He's a short person.
He's a short person. What else?
Wide neck.
It's a wide neck. He has capital on his head. Alright, 3 from up here.
Real curly hair.
He has a huge forehead, protruding forehead, yes.
Real curly hair.
He has curly hair. She said short, you can say anything, Jake.
Shooting eyeball. One eye.
Alright, well he's also, it's pretty deep now, because also a lot of rappers and everybody doing this, right? Subhanallah. I'm not, stuff a lot. I don't want to talk about that. Alright. We don't talk about that. But the whole point is,
Never children.
well, he's also clean. Now, obviously, when it comes to Salih ibn Sayyad, this is a very weird person. Okay? Very weird person for the arguments that we said, that he was a boy, he would challenge the Prophet, even after he took his Shahada. Some of the scholars mentioned that Allah knows best. What Muslim would say something like that? That, the Dajjal sounds pretty nice. If I was given that, I ain't going to refuse it. Knowing that the Dajjal is what? A kafir. So somebody would say that maybe he was a munafiq, he was a hypocrite. Some say
maybe
that
he was just joking. Maybe he had a sense of humor.
That's a very weird sense of humor, man.
I mean, from what he was doing before, anything.
That's true. That's true. But like I said, you ever met someone where they just like to play like mental games with you? And at the very least, we can say this about Safi. He was a very weird dude. All right. But alayhi, that's in regards to that. The hadith of Jassasa is also about the island. You can when Tamim Daddy, he was traveling and he was thrown off into the island and so on and so forth. Now, again, no, they make their points and so on and so forth. When we say no, we don't say no that they're not saying that Jah doesn't exist and he will not come. They're saying no that he does not what?
He's not alive right now.
Right, they say that no, that he's not alive right now, but he will come. Again, perhaps this or this, whatever you agree with, alhamdulillah, we presented both arguments, but at the end of the day, he will come, all right? He is a creation from Allah. Okay, he will come, and he will raise all type of havoc and hell on earth, all right? So basically, again, at the end of the day, he's from the major signs. Now, next week, what we're going to go over is the arrival of the Dajjal. Where is he going to come from? All right, what land is going to come out? The different trials and tribulations that the people are going to go through, and that he's going to put the people through. and everything, and so on and so forth. And response to those who deny the Dajjal, those who say, we don't even believe the Dajjal. The Dajjal is not mentioned in the Quran, and so on and so forth. We ask you, how do you respond to these people? All right? And also, how do you protect yourself from the Dajjal? Is there any questions about this?
So what is the 100 thing?
All right, so the hadith about the 100 is basically what the Prophet mentioned, that whoever is alive at this particular time, or every 100 years, whoever's alive as of right now, will not be present. All right? Will not be present in 100 years from now. Will not be present in 100 years from now.
Does it mean they won't live past 100?
No, not necessarily they won't live past 100. In some comments that he's referring to what that particular generation,
Oh, okay.
who's ever alive as of right now,
Right.
will
And
not
they
be
won't be
present
alive
100 years from now.
right.
Because you have people that live over 100 years old.
Yeah, right.
So how do we
That's
understand
what
this? So he's talking about as far as the people who are right now. So they're saying that if that is the case, and you're saying that the Dajjal was present during that time, then he obviously couldn't be present. But then the scholars
But that don't mean that he was born during that time.
yeah, well, again, you're saying that he's alive, and he's if he's alive back then, he had to be alive during the time when the Prophet said it. If he's alive during the time of Noah, he had to be alive then. So the scholars are saying that, well, how could you say that when you're saying that when this contradicts this hadith? And they respond to that by saying, well, is it shaitan for those who are granted respite?
Right.
Is it this one for granted respite, so on and so forth?
Right.
So perhaps it could be from those who granted, what's the problem?
Right.
So this is back and forth argument. Again, both groups agree that the Dajjal he will come out. Again, whether he's alive right now, alhamdulillah, he's chained up, we ain't got to worry about it. All right? But if he comes out, then we actually go about how to protect ourselves from that. But from an academic perspective, as far as our deen is concerned, all right, this is why I just wanted to present it. A lot of people, they don't agree with actually presenting, just give you just this. I believe you're a very smart group, so you'll be able to deal with it, inshallah. All right? Yeah. Any other questions? No? All right, so if that's it, we'll end with that, inshallah. Subhanahu wa ta'ala, astaghfirullah wa natubu ilayh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The Dajjal is an interesting